Name that tune in the comments below. And I don't care if somebody else already put the name down there. Maybe they're wrong. You should put the name that you think that song is. Hey everybody, Evan here, Quarantech episode 5. I can't believe we're already on the 5th episode. Once again, wearing Frank Lloyd Wright, Taliesin West t-shirt this time, keeping it architectural. Today I'm really excited to have Francisco Penaloza. He's a senior visualization artist in our Ontario office. He does amazing kind of black magic work with images, with VR, with real-time rendering. He's been doing this for a really long time. He knows absolutely everything about it. And today I wanted to have him on the show to talk about some of the stuff that he's been doing behind the scenes to make it so that we have a shared material library with all of our design tools. He's using a really cool tool called Substance Designer to do that. We're pushing everything all the way through Enscape 3D so that we have exactly the same material library for everybody. And you get to see all the cool stuff that he's been doing to actually make that happen. So let's learn more about Francisco. Let's jump on a call with him right now. All right, this is Francisco Penaloza. He's a senior visualization artist in our Ontario office, but he serves the whole firm. And welcome to Quarantech, Francisco. It's great to have you here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Francisco, since we've been in quarantine, your hair has gotten a lot longer.
Actually, I cut it, man.
You did?
Actually, I cut it.
No way.
Yeah. It was too long. Actually, I'm not ashamed to say that I was sitting actually in my hair, and I thought that was too much.
You were sitting on your hair. Jeez. Well, mine's been long too, but I have not been able to cut mine. So whatever. This is the life that we live, and I'm not about to pull out the clippers to go smaller.
Yeah.
So,
I'm lucky enough. My wife cut it. So.
And your long hair comes from a long history of rock and roll, right?
Yes. I'm a long time rebel for years. So.
Yeah. So you played bass in what? Classify the music for us, because I don't want to say the wrong thing here.
So in Chile we call them power metal.
Power metal.
In America it would be something like a melodic heavy metal, something like that.
Black death metal?
No, black death metal.
You'll have to send me the link. Do you guys have your album out there? I should put a link in the show notes to this so people can check it out.
I used to play in the band. I don't play in the band anymore.
I know you don't anymore, but the music lives on, man.
Sure.
Relive the glory days. I mean, I used to play in a band too. So I'll tell you what. We'll put links to both of our albums down so people can stream it, and that would be fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So tell everybody what you do at HMC.
So I'm the senior visualization artist for HMC. I've been in HMC many years. I think you're going to 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And my task mostly is doing still images and animations. But as technology advanced, I've been also involved in the whole revolution of real time. So I'm doing VR, AR presentations, and also lately helping everybody with the new Enscape and Lumion technologies. That it's been an actual revolution for us in HMC.
Yeah.
So working with Chris Grant, we before we were exclusively producing all the media. The HMC did videos and stuff right now, but right now it's being divided and more people, thankfully. So I put my hands a little in everything, all related to media.
That's the revolutionary part, right? Is that now you don't have to do everything. So
exactly.
It's totally revolutionary for you guys, because now with real-time rendering engines and the quality of the graphics cards that we have in our hardware, it makes it a lot easier for more people to produce really good-looking imagery, and then we can just come to you guys when we need absolutely amazing imagery.
Correct. Yeah. That's mostly the main idea. And actually, my degree is I'm an industrial designer. And I ended up involved in architecture some way.
Somehow.
But some way, somehow.
It pulled you in like a black hole.
Yeah. And but I totally understand. The design is always dynamic, always changing. So I totally understood when I was years ago working with you guys, and you sent us a file, and we started doing the rendering, and then a design change, and it was,
whole new file.
yeah, horrible, and we screaming and cursing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And you
curse in
guys,
Spanish, so nobody understands it.
but yet somehow you still produced amazing imagery and
Thank you.
animations, even though we would give you a model way beyond the due date of when we said we would, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of graphics cards and the incredible hardware that we have at our fingertips now, I want you to go back. We did a little bit of nostalgia in the last episode of Quarantech, so I think that's going to be the new thing. I want you to tell everybody about your very first memories of like an amazing graphics card, and obviously it wouldn't be amazing by today's standards, but
Yeah.
back in the day, right? This is the back in the day segment. Tell us about something that you remember about like your first really great graphics card.
So I guess this is a nice way that you ask how old I am.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Well, see, you have gray hair. I have gray
Oh
hair,
yeah.
and
This is not free.
that's why we have this back in the day segment.
Yeah. So my first decent video card was the what is called the Voodoo video card,
Voodoo, yeah.
and by then was the revolution, because it was the first hardware dedicated for 3D graphics.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I was using my dad's computer, right? And I was, green screen. I mean, it was black, but the text was green, right? And
Right.
you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I installed a bootleg version of AutoCAD by then, and I barely can run. So then I worked that summer a lot.
Yeah.
And my dad put the other half, and I bought a computer. But by then the computers only have a 2D processing unit.
Right.
And then when I started in the university, my first year, I was lucky. I got a job, and I worked the whole summer to buy the famous Voodoo video card. That you have to connect it to the 2D video card, so you get 2D images and the 3D processing unit.
Wow.
It was separate.
Yeah.
And since I was in the university, they let me use 3D Max, 3D Studio.
No, just 3D Studio back then. That's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, 3D Studio. It was in DOS.
Yep, in DOS. That was pretty much my first 3D Studio as well. Was running it in DOS.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
So, yeah.
It was amazing.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I thought that I was, doing Hollywood stuff, and
I'm pretty sure the first graphics card that I put in, I actually had a Macintosh clone when Apple was allowing that, which is before Steve Jobs came back in '97. I think it was probably 1995 when I was in school, and I bought this thing called a Power Tower Pro, and it was a clone of a Macintosh. So it ran Mac OS, but somebody else made the hardware. I think the computer came with a 4 megabyte card.
Yes.
And I put in an 8 megabyte card, and I think it cost me to the tune of like $1,500 back then to go to 8 megabytes. And I was using it for electric image in my case because that's what I was running on the Mac. But when I was working in the computer lab at school, I was also running 3D Studio in DOS. And it was around the same time. So just incredible how far along things have come.
And funny thing, that summer we were talking about music. I was saving money to buy an amp for my bass. I play bass guitar.
Yeah.
So I had my eye on this PV amp. It was huge,
Yeah.
And the stinky video card was more expensive than the amp. And I was so frustrated.
And you don't even get to look at it because it's inside the tower.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even get to see your money.
Yeah.
You got to feel that power.
Oh yeah, totally.
So that's cool. Thanks for sharing. That's really fun. Tell us about what you've been working on now. One of the things that we talked about in one of the earlier shows, and Noah alluded to this new kind of shared platform for material library between different pieces of software. And you have actually been instrumental in creating that because you have this amazing background in computer graphics and texture maps, and you know way more than us layman architects know. So, I mean, give us a clue about what it's taken for you to build that. Maybe you can show us what you've been working on as well. And then also kind of what underlies, because I think a lot of people just think that you download textures from the internet. right? And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you're going to show us something way different than that.
Yeah. So the origin of all this was, as technology evolved, there was a big gap between the images that were produced in Revit or Rhino or SketchUp with what Chris and I can produce using a specialized software, of course, like 3D Max and everything else. Yeah. And so then when Lumion and Enscape came out into our company, people were asking how can I make it look better, right?
Yeah.
Or the typical question that I receive, and I still people are asking me, my computer is crashing. Why crash when I'm trying to render an image?
Yeah.
And then debugging, it was because we everything is running right now on the video card, so you are limited as the memory of your video card. Most HMC laptops has 4 or 8 gigabytes memory maximum, which is a standard, and you can fit a lot. You can do a lot of stuff with it.
Right.
But if you download an image, a PDF or an image for a texture, let's say a fabric from online, and the texture is 20,000 pixels by 20,000,
And you just leave it there, right? That's what you do.
Yeah. Then you put it in a chair, right? And you copy that chair 100 times, right?
Right.
Why not?
And
Why
this
not?
is where, because the software allows it, doesn't mean it's right.
Exactly.
But it also
Correct.
is not telling you to look out for that, and it's not telling you
Correct.
it's wrong. So it's not giving you any of the guidelines. And if you didn't grow up with computer graphics like we did, you don't realize that every little bit counts in saving that, so that the renderings calculate faster. Because when we used to do animations, we were trying to get each frame to be produced in seconds instead of minutes, right? And so now you're talking about real time. You're talking about 30 frames per second, and it actually is trying to calculate those textures at 30 frames per second. So file size still matters, right?
Correct. So we did a research, and we start to going with the trend, with the background technology that is behind all these new tools, and it's game technology, right? Gaming. And before, a few years ago, if you use the word game in our industry, everybody kick you out. What are you talking about?
Right.
We're not playing. But today, all our technology is based on game technology.
Right.
So then going back to the basics, how they do it, how they do these incredible games graphic, and they can fit it on the video card.
Right.
So that's why we start to incorporating the same software into our daily task. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. So then this software is called Substance Designer, and right now it's part of Adobe. And what it does is kind of similar to what you guys use with Grasshopper.
Yeah.
It's all node based, and what it does is you give them functions. You give different functions to this software, and these functions, when you mix them in different ways, it creates an image, it creates a texture. So and why I'm using this and not downloading an image from the internet like anybody else would
like
say.
An animal, yeah.
Correct. because this is I can change it anytime, and I am not limited to the size or the resolution of what I get online. So I can bend it and flex it as I need it.
That's awesome.
So since we are talking about fit everything in our video card, so this software over here, you can see I have it 2048 pixels, and the standard usually is 1024.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't limit this. I have an infinite quality
resolution
in this software.
Yeah. So
exactly.
One of the reasons you're using this node-based editor, just like we use Grasshopper, is because every little component there has inputs and outputs. And basically this is like a kitchen table, and you've got ingredients for the recipe that you're creating. And by putting it together in this exact way, you get this really cool output, but realizing that at any moment you can go back to any one of these pieces and adjust it, and it will affect the output immediately. So you're getting real-time texture creation with this really cool recipe that you've put together here.
Correct. So I do the general math once, and then if in this case, this is the graph that I used to create the CMU blocks. And so then I just input these values and I get the different color variations.
Sweet.
And as I was mentioning earlier, for instance, right now, you guys can see over here on the right, I have the running bone pattern for the bricks.
Right.
And then once it's all designed, all what I have to change is one value. And now everything is the same, except that now they are stacked bond.
That's awesome.
Or if I want to change the number of brick, right now is 15, I can say 5, by 5. And now I have gigantic tile,
Yeah.
but everything else stay the same.
So this is what we used to call in the day. We used to call these procedural textures, right? And because it's all based on math, there's a lot of math functions going in,
Correct.
determining what that final output is going to look like.
Correct. So using this technology, I said, well, we will create a material library, a sort of a standard material library for everybody in HMC to use. And we start, of course, with basics, general materials. And hopefully with time, we will be addressing more specific materials. Of course, we cannot cover everything, right? But so far, I have created the basics. We have asphalt, concrete, we have woods, acoustic tiles, metals,
right.
And we have CMUs and all the CMUs and a lot of color variations, so you can, get crazy on it.
Right.
And bricks.
So
and the main idea.
I was going to say, like when we started this idea, we thought, how many do we need? Maybe like 8 or 10. We use like the same 8 or 10 textures on every single project because those are where you start, right? It always goes beyond that later. But obviously we were wrong.
Well, we were better off. Look how many.
Just because of color variation and like especially once you get into bricks and blocks and the way that they stack, and we want to see that as soon as we can on the project. So that's why this has grown already. Yeah,
and since we are using that procedural material, you can see the textures are very, very detailed. So even if you want to do a close-up, you will get a nice result.
That's awesome.
So the main idea is, in this case, Noah kind of did a quick introduction for the Rhino side.
Right.
By the way, I'm working with Noah and Max Lobo. Max is taking care of the Revit side. Noah is taking care of the Rhino, and I am, still fighting with the SketchUp. So
well, you're also the one who's making all these textures work for everybody, right? Because it's way beyond just what it looks like, but it's what the texture files are named and all the different pieces of the texture file. Like we only end up really seeing the color one, but there's also the bump and the transparency and the normal maps and all of those variables that go into actually building a really good looking material.
Yes, and that's a very important point that Max maybe later will address with the Revit people, because Autodesk is also changing the way that they do the materials. Autodesk is going to finally the standard for everybody that is called Pvr Materials. So they are physically based materials, and Enscape also is using the same technology. So we all can have the main idea is if you design something in Rhino and then you're going to send it to Revit, it's going to look the same, has to look the same. Exactly. And then you send it to us, to visualization team, and we can take it from there. And maybe we will leave the same texture because they look good already. Or if we need to, we have the options to do it, right?
Yep, that's very cool. And I think it's good to let people know that the Revit implementation is in the works. I think that there was a little bit of questioning, like, hey, how come more people in the office use Revit than they use Rhino? Is how come we don't have it there? And it's the honest truth is it's just taking a lot longer because Autodesk is changing things behind the scenes, and they've only recently gone to the PVR textures in 2021, which we don't even have yet.
Yeah. So a quick demo. So in the SketchUp side, you will load this scene.
Yep.
And then, for instance, if you would like to have this ceiling tile, you just copy the texture and then you apply it to the surface that you need it, right? And over here we can see change it the time of the day, and you see the metal part is going to be shiny, and and the other one is going to be not. And So I made the basics, the typical that I use most of the time when we are doing renderings, you know. So, and then we have this came out, you know, Jonathan Ricker was working on a project, and he asked me, do we have anything that is a Corten, right? Mm-hmm. So I create quickly this Corten map, you know, and
beautiful.
And I put that guy over there playing guitar.
Yep.
But you can see how the Corten will react to the has the shininess, you know.
Yep.
And this panel, I think, is 6 by 2 or something like that. And still, the user can you know, can adjust as they need it, you know, depending of the
look
of
that they're after. Yeah.
Correct.
That's so cool.
So if you wanna break, you know, you just change it, you know.
Beautiful.
And I'm changing material faster than that guy can tune the guitar. So.
Yeah, he's still tuning. Hey, so one of the things that's really cool about Substance Designer is that, like, you don't really notice the repeatability of the texture. It's obviously there because you're making 1024 by 1024 pixel maps. But yeah. I think a lot of times when people download textures from the internet, the shading is weird, and so you really notice the repeating. I even saw that in like the new grass texture in Revit 2021. It looks terrible. Yes. It looks absolutely terrible. So, so tell us a little bit about like the repeatability and the tiling that you've kind of built into this.
So that's one of the advantages to use a procedural software like Substance in this case, because this you see the elements that I'm using here are they don't tile. They are infinite in size. You know, the scale. You see, I can go really close, or I can keep growing. You know, and it will never repeat. So that way, I can control how big in the real world will look this texture. So in this case, the CMU, I made them 20 foot by 20 foot. They can cover that surface of 20 foot by 20 foot, which is very large.
Yeah, that's huge.
And but at that, you know, that can cover most of the use. Like you said, in this case, the brick, even though it's this brick that has an accent, we can see that, you know, has that one is different to that one, and it's different to that one. So it's really, if it repeats, it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, that looks really good. One of the other things that this software plugs into as well is Unreal, right?
Correct.
So tell everybody a little bit about Unreal, because this is kind of the new territory, even beyond Enscape and Lumion, that you haven't really talked about yet. But you've been using Unreal because it allows us to do some super amazing real-time interactive stuff. And I know you've been really using it in VR a lot as well.
Correct. So Unreal is the software designed by Epic company. And it's the same company that create Fortnite, right? Everybody knows
Everybody knows
Fortnite.
About that, yeah. Everyone who has a teenager or, you know, let's just say a 5 to 15-year-old knows about Fortnite.
Yeah. My son right now is killing somebody in Fortnite. So they release the software for free for everybody like us designers, and it give us this incredible tool that is everything real time. The main advantage is a professional tool. It's so it can scale. We can bend it as we need it. So with Chris, we are using it mostly to create VR presentations, but you can also get images or you can do videos. And right now, the technologies that are coming are mixed reality and telepresence and everything that is VR, AR. Is going to be based in Unreal or Unity. Cool. Those are the main two tools. Right. So there's been a few projects that I've been using Unreal, so I can have that. I put the same effort that I do in 3D Max, but at the end I can get a video, I can get images, and I can get a real time if it's needed.
And a VR, so that's a VR experience too, right?
Yeah, that's a big time saver.
It's amazing because it looks so good. It looks, you know, it looks almost to the level of the old V-Ray renders or the current V-Ray renders, but it's fully interactive. You can move furniture around, you can swap out materials, you can turn lights on and off when you're in VR. And that's incredible. I think what we should do is we should save that for the next episode that you're on. And I would love it if you would show that off so that other people can see it, because I think a lot of people haven't got to experience that. And even though we can't provide that experience, we could show them what some of those images look like and maybe what some of the people have experienced in it.
Okay.
I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that can be cool.
Cool, man. So I appreciate you showing all that. I have a final question for you before we sign off, and that's like, what's the thing that you're most excited about with technology, kind of related to what you do, that you're excited about that's coming or is just here right now?
So the cool thing is technology is not coming from one part; it's coming from everywhere. And there are these very smart people that say, oh, what if I mix this with that, and they put it together, and then you get something completely new. So there is this new things that everybody is putting time right now that is called Telepresence.
Yeah.
And what it is the mix of virtual reality, VR, with remote assistance or remote presence. So there is something that I think for our industry, architecture, and since we are all working from home, and maybe we're going to be like this for a very long time, right? We don't know how many more viruses are going to come, right?
There will be more.
Yeah. So the telepresence so far works, and there is Leica company. They do lenses. They are making this very cheaper to use 3D scanning devices. Yeah. So the idea is you grab one of these 3D scanning devices, and let's say, and you take it to the construction site, and then it will scan the whole environment and send it back to anybody that sign up for this team meeting. And then you can jump in this meeting just the way that we are right now, but you also can see it in VR.
And I can look any direction that I want. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are not limited to the 2D image that you get on the video.
Right.
So you can look around and you can point, and you can do notes. We saw something very similar in the last tech conference that we did.
Yeah.
With this company.
I think it was called.
I cannot remember the name.
I think it was Clone. Yeah.
Something like that. And yeah, that's, I think that look before used to look like a very far in the future. Yeah. But with this COVID-19 issue, I think now a lot of companies are gonna, what we were talking about?
It's kind of the ultimate physical distancing, right? You actually do not have to go to the site at all. And what's really cool is you set up the one scanner in the room, wherever it is. It scans the room and just makes that the meeting space. And then everybody can go into that meeting space with their VR goggles and look at everything that thing captured. It's incredible. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. And then you can have conversations about it and even see each other in the space with you. It's so incredible. So cool. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for that. I think that's super exciting as well. That's going to be a very cool thing to keep our eyes on. Cool, man. Well, that is it for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and I look forward to our next talk, and we'll talk about Unreal and real-time VR and all that kind of stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.